Anyway, so if we scoop back round to money now, and we go, how many different monies have there been in history? You know, shells, whale's teeth, metals, paper, cigarettes. I read that they use mackerel packs in prisons. Have you heard that? They trade mackerel. Cognac, Zimbabwe dollars, Reichsmarks, denarii, farthings, shillings, shit coins. Most monies have died. And most of those which haven't yet died will die. And it's pretty much only gold and maybe silver goes on. And that's all to do with gold's permanence and its immutability and all the rest of it. But as I say, with transatlantic cables, you can't send gold over the internet. Saylor famously said that you can't send gold down the internet, but you can send golden promises between trusted third parties. But then you're back into promissory money again.
Right.
Now, at the moment, the US dollar is the global reserve currency. And you can send the US dollar over the internet, but it's hard for people who aren't American to get a US dollar bank account. Foreign exchange fees are expensive. Money transfers can take several days sometimes. There are billions around the world, as we know, who are still unbanked. So they can't get any kind of bank account, let alone a US dollar one. So the US dollar is a national currency that is used internationally.
Right.
And a country, if it wanted to, and there are many that do, could use the US dollar as their national currency. But at the same time, if you do that, you're importing US monetary policy.
Right.
And so you're subjecting yourself to the US political whims, which is why most countries tend to issue their own currencies, because they've got their own political agenda.
Which is a nice way of saying you're basically making yourself vulnerable to US taxation via inflation.
It's exactly what you're doing. I put it more politely, but So even though it's international, it's still a national currency, and it's limited by its national borders and by its politics. And the same goes for any national currency. But language is not limited by national borders, or at least English isn't. So I'm going to suggest, and this is the point of today's thing, I'm going to suggest that the US dollar is what French was 100 years ago, 120 years ago. You thought it was the international language, it was the official language of diplomacy, but its scalability is limited. And if only there was an apolitical, borderless currency for the borderless medium that is the internet, then that really would be scalable in a way that no national currency is. And it would have to be a currency that's evolved organically and is constantly growing. Now, the Bitcoin price may be down 50% on what it was this time last year, give or take, whatever date this gets published on. But the network has grown 20% over the same time. You don't need a bank account to start using Bitcoin. You only need a phone with an internet connection. And we're not far off the point where anyone in the world who wants a smartphone has one. I went to the homeless charity the other day. I walked past it where they all queue in the morning to get their breakfast, and they're all sat outside. All the homeless people sat outside queuing for their breakfast on the ground, all playing on their mobile phones. All the homeless have got smartphones. And I don't know what the latest numbers are, but we're not far off the point where anyone in the world who wants a smartphone has one. I imagine we're about 1 billion people away from that.
Right.
I'm guessing. So here's the thing. The US dollar is what French was. But if money is language, then Bitcoin is English. That's the line. It has the potential to scale in a way that no other currency has. So yeah, that's the main point. I've got a little anecdote I'll tell you in a sec, but that's my main argument.
I really like it. It's so funny, I had been using this line where to try and ban Bitcoin is as effective as trying to ban English, something like that. But I like how you've unpacked it a lot here. And the only other thing I would throw in is that this global apolitical borderless money for the borderless internet, the other thing that it's very significant to its value proposition is the lack of counterparty risk in holding something like Bitcoin. And as we've seen over the past 2 years, as you get more abuse and more oppression from counterparties, whether it's the seizure of funds from the Canadian Freedom Convoy protest, or even the seizure of foreign central bank reserves by the SWIFT network, basically from the Russian central bank. I mean, I think all of these occasions create more pressure to adopt something like Bitcoin that's free of counterparty risk, or physical gold. I guess physical gold too is the other, non-counterparty monetary option, but of course it's much less practical since you can't send it over the internet.
Yeah. And if we're sending golden promises, but I'm holding the gold that I promised to pay you, and then you're a naughty boy and you go and invade another country, well, I'm not giving you the gold.
That's right. Yeah. He who holds the gold makes all the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole financial repression, the whole financial warfare that has been waged on Russia, I can't say I blame American policymakers, European policymakers for doing that. I probably would have done the same had I been in their position. But I think it's incredible, the weaponization of money. Mm-hmm. It's been quite something to behold. And I imagine China's looking at that and going, okay, we still got however many trillion US dollars here.
Right.
Let's get rid of them.
Yes.
before we invade Taiwan, let's just get rid of these and convert them into gold or whatever.
Yes.
But so I think that has probably delayed the inevitable invasion of Taiwan, which is a good thing, but it is also longer term weakened the US dollar, because it's made it apparent to America's enemies how much by using their money you are playing into American hands. And right. There's an amazing stat. I don't know if you know this, but what's the best performing currency this year?
I have no idea.
Russian ruble.
Ah, okay.
You'd think it's the US dollar. I mean, there's bound to be some, the Chilean peso or something, some right. obscure one has probably done better, but you'd think it was the US dollar, which has been very strong this year, but the Russian ruble has outperformed it. And it's all because, the US is the money of petrol, gas, as you call it, but Russia is the money of natural gas. And it started demanding rubles. You want to buy its natural gas, you've got to buy its rubles. And that's, I guess that's the reason for it. But it's not a statistic you hear that often. It's very telling.
Yeah, that's interesting. The idea of requiring a certain denomination for energy contracts, whether it's oil or natural gas, that's a way to actually bolster reservation demand for your currency and give it that uplift in terms of purchasing power. That's what the U.S. did too, right? We went off the gold standard and then we pegged it to black gold. So